Hi guys, James at RampantLionReviews again for you today with another beer review. For this one, we are going to head over to Japan once again, and we're going to return to a brewery that's featured on the channel once before. Now, the last review that I did from these guys appeared on the channel maybe about a year ago, if I'm not mistaken, and this brewery, I would say, are a relatively new addition to the local beer scene, but they've built up a very good reputation for themselves, particularly over the last 2 or 3 years when their beers have started to get out there a little bit more. If people were to ask me about them, I would say that they are very well rounded, but it's probably also fair to say that these guys are best known for their different kinds of IPAs, and those are definitely worth trying, and this is one of the Japanese breweries that I would really recommend you check out should you get the chance. They are very much up and coming at the moment, in my opinion. But the beer that we're going to have a look at from them today is a style that I have tried from this brewery before, albeit not on the channel. It's one that I know they can do very well, and as of the time of filming, which is October 2025, this one is a very, very new beer. So needless to say, I'm very, very curious to see what this one's going to have in store for us. Hopefully it's another good beer. Hopefully it makes for an interesting review, and as always, I hope that you guys watching enjoy my take on this one as well. So yeah, for this review then, like I said, we are going to head over to Japan. We are going to go to the Kansai region, which is the kind of Osaka-ish area. We're going to go south of there to Wakayama Prefecture, and to a little place called Aridagawa, and that means we're going to have a look at another beer from the wonderful Nomcraft Brewing. So this particular beer is called Yodokabe Tiger. It comes in at 7% ABV. It's a New England hazy, whatever you want to call it, IPA, but it is also a very, very new release. I believe this one was released this month, October 2025. So yeah, this one I actually had a little sip of in the Juso tap room. But I refrained from having a proper full pint or whatever of this because I wanted to do a proper sit-down review of this beer since it was so new actually. So yeah, definitely nice to return to Nomcraft. My last review from these guys was the Cactus Cowboy, which was about a year ago, and I really enjoyed that one, and Nomcraft have quite rightly been getting a lot of praise in recent times, and we've got a few more cans to look at from these guys over the next few videos, so keep your eyes peeled. But yeah, let's crack on with this one then and see how we go. The Yodokabe Tiger, a 7% New England Hazy IPA from Nomcraft Brewing in Aridagawa, Wakayama, Kansai, Japan. So, as always with my reviews then, I'll tell you a little bit about the brewery before we taste the beer. If you want to get straight to the tasting though, just fast forward. All the usual links can be found in the video description below. That's the brewery website, the link to my other reviews that I've done from Nomcraft Brewing, and we will be adding more to that very soon, and I do love this brewery, so I'm sure we'll do that over the longer term as well. But there's all the usual social media down there. If you want to see more reviews, do please consider subscribing to the channel. The support that you give is massively appreciated, and remember, you can go into the channel homepage and search for beer using the geography tagging system. So just go in there, use the little search bar, put your hometown, state, county, province, whatever you like. If I've reviewed beers from the area that you search for, they will pop up. Failing that though, you can check out the playlist of beers from different countries. You'll find this one in the Japanese playlist along with a number of other things. That's being added to very regularly, of course, because I'm over there visiting my son quite often and I love my Japanese beers. And there's all, you can make sure as well that you go and check out all the other playlists from different countries, because there are some very interesting beers up here on the channel these days, even if I do say so myself. But yeah, let's go on to my brewery notes then, and I'll tell you a little bit about Nomcraft Brewing once again. So, Nomcraft Brewing, as I've mentioned to you already, are based in Aridagawa in Wakayama Prefecture in the Kansai region of Japan, and the company was founded by a local consortium of investors. However, two of the important guys in starting up the business are the Americans Adam Baran and Ben Emrich. So Adam originally studied communications in Chicago, but upon his graduation he decided to head to Japan in 2011 for a little bit of an adventure to work as an English teacher. But it was there that he befriended Ben, who was a craft beer enthusiast and a fellow English teacher, and together they would go and explore the craft beer bars of Osaka and the wider Kansai region and attend the different beer festivals. And a lot of this was just kind of starting up at that time in sort of 2011 and 2012, but it's obviously grown a lot over the last 10 years or so. But after a few years, they began to wonder if they could create their own business out of their passion for craft beer. They first pondered the idea of a bar, but then they later settled on planning their own brewery. After a while, they quit their English teaching jobs and then headed back to the US in 2017 to build a strategy and start actually planning the brewery for real and get some experience inside the industry. So Adam earned his qualification as a certified Cicerone, and he worked in a number of tap rooms around Chicago, which, as we know, is a very good beer city, while Ben, on the other hand, returned to his hometown of Portland in Oregon, which we also know is a very good beer city. And he was working on his home brewing skills there, and he also gained some experience in a real brewery with a number of different local breweries. And as I say, there's many good breweries in Portland, Oregon. So these guys went and got their experience in some very good beer locations. But apparently Ben had a chance encounter with members of the Aridagawa Machizukuri, which is essentially the town's development council if we translate it into English. He encountered these guys at a Portland fair held at the Hanshin department store in Osaka, which is very close to the Umeda station. Good selection of beer there, incidentally. But basically this group had been looking at Portland as a case study for how to develop a local economy and attract outside investors, and they apparently had the slogan "Keep Aridagawa Weird." This of course led to the customary exchange of business cards, which you'll very often do in Japan, and then Ben and Adam later reached out to them to inquire about grants for startup companies, and things just kind of went from there. So Morimoto from the council directed their attention towards a dormant nursery school site which they had earmarked for a craft beer tap room, but they suggested to Adam and Ben that they could come to Wakayama and run a brewery in Aridagawa. So during this stage, Takumi Kaneko came into the fold. He's originally from Aichi Prefecture, the sort of Nagoya area, and he met the council in Portland during his backpacking days. And this prompted him to visit Aridagawa, and he started, working, picking tangerines, and then building furniture in Morimoto's workshop. But his English skills saw him added to the team as a brewer and a creative marketer. But another addition during the planning stage was Gareth Williams, who was a long-term resident of the area, and he often attended the different council meetings. His children once attended the nursery that the brewery is located in, and he participated in the building of the brewery and eventually became the sales representative of Nomcraft Brewing. But by 2019, Ben and Adam were back in Japan with an operational brewery. The equipment was acquired from a brewery up in Iwate Prefecture who gave them some brewer-led guidance before the equipment was then shipped down to Wakayama, and they also received a lot of help from the Kansai brewing community in getting the brewery up and running. But the brewery debuted its craft beers at the 2019 Craft Beer Live Festival in Osaka, and then the COVID pandemic forced them to shift their focus to cans and bottles quite quickly. In 2022 though, Ben left the company to join Open Air Brewing up in Kobe Prefecture, and so Adam stepped into the role of head brewer and Junya Nakamura joined the brewing team as well. But over the last few years they've continued to develop new recipes and build up their sales and distribution as well, and they've also been experimenting with gin and seltzer from what I understand too. Right next door to the brewery is the Golden River Tap Room and Restaurant, which shares a common investor with the brewery, and so there you can taste a number of the beers very close to the brewery. And these days they've also got a tap room in the Juso area, which is just to the north of Umeda in Osaka, and they're apparently working on finding a space in Wakayama City in Wakayama Prefecture as well. But as of October 2025, when I'm filming this review for you, these guys have produced 275 different kinds of beer according to Untappd, and that number will no doubt continue to increase as time goes on. But like I said to you, these guys have been building up a very good reputation for themselves over the last few years, and yeah, their beers are very well regarded these days. Definitely one of the best breweries in the Kansai region, in my humble opinion. But yeah, that is everything I can really tell you about Nomcraft Brewing for the moment. If you want to learn more about these guys, you can check out the brewery website, you can follow them on Facebook and Instagram to keep up to date with all the latest goings on, and you can check out the Rate Beer, Untappd and Beer Advocate pages to learn a little bit more about all the different beers that these guys have done. So yeah, let's go on then and have a little look at the beer itself. You can take a breath after that. That was quite a long history. But yeah, anyway, like I said earlier on, This beer is a 7% New England Hazy, whatever you want to call it, IPA. It's hopped with Bruce and Crush, apparently. So the Bruce hops, apparently this is a New Zealand blend of Nelson Sauvin, Motueka and Racal hops, which we do know quite well. It's supposed to give you about 10% alpha acid, but within that, yeah, you'll get lots of lime, gooseberry, and a little bit of like apricot and pineapple and stuff like that, I'm sure. Crush, on the other hand, is an American hop released in 2024. It was known previously as HBC 586. I'm pretty sure I've had it quite a few times. It gives between 10 to 14% alpha acid, and it's known for mango, orange and berry flavours and aromas, along with a little bit of a woody character in the green component. But yeah, anyway, in terms of the artwork with this one, this is the big thing with this beer. You can see that you've got the tiger on there, the Yodokabe tiger. So if you go to the tap room in Juso in Osaka, you'll see that there's a big mural just kind of across the way, and this beer basically features the artwork of Baki Baki, which is a local Osaka artist. You can see his sort of signature here, if we can call it that, and yeah, the mural that's right across from the tap room is called the Yodokabe tiger, and I think this is the second, maybe third collaboration that they've done with this artist. So yeah, pretty cool that Nomcraft are collaborating with different artists and things in the Osaka area. So yeah, that's where this beer takes its name and its artwork from. So yeah, as I say, 7% New England IPA, this one. It is a 355 milliliter can, which is a common measurement in Japan. Let's get it out into the glass and see what it's all about. So yeah, I think I said earlier, I had a little sip of this one in the tap room because yeah, Amanda got this beer if I'm not mistaken. So I had a little bit of a taste of it, but not enough to really kind of get a full impression, if you like. So yeah, I wanted to make sure this was a proper first time tasting when I did the video of this one. And to be honest, the thing that really inspired me to get this beer was the fact that it had the Bruce in it. You know, King Robert the Bruce of Scotland, absolute legend. So yeah, this one I think should be quite interesting. The other thing as well is, as I say, it is one of their very new releases. So yeah, anyway, before the head on this beer disappears then, you can see that it's poured with just under a finger of a frothy, I would say, cream coloured head. It has, yeah, you can see if we bring that up to the camera, it's gotten a little bit more sort of soapy the further up that we go. And there's some kind of medium-sized bubbles on the kind of surface of the liquid there. But I would say it's a lovely kind of perfect white head in this one. In terms of the colour of the beer, it's got a lovely, very kind of bright yellow mango juice colour. So remember, the colour of your beer depends on a few different things. One, the type of malts that you use. This goes a long way to determining your EBC rating. Two, length of your wort boil is going to play a role, because the longer you boil the wort, the more the sugars caramelise, and thus you get a darker colour of beer. But any barrel aging that you do or adjuncts you put into the beer as well will affect its colour too. But you don't often have to care about that when it comes to the IPA style umbrella, if we can call it that. But yeah, one thing I will say about this one as well is that the level of haze in this beer is pretty impressive when you consider that it's only a 7%er. So remember, the level of haze in a New England IPA depends on the oak content, wheat content, and to a degree what yeast you use, and that can vary from brewery to brewery and beer to beer. The other thing that I'm noticing about this one is that there's not too much in the way of visible carbonation. You can see a few bubbles coming up toward the surface there and just breaking it, but yeah, you've got that nice foamy ring around the edge of the glass there, but the head has just faded away to be a very kind of thin foamy layer. So yeah, I think we can say in conclusion, with appearance, there's nothing really surprising about the appearance of this beer when we consider what style it is, but it is one of the hazier ones I've seen at the 7% mark. So yeah, let's go on and have a little look at the aroma of this one then. I'm very curious about this, as I said, so let's do it. Oh man, the aroma on this beer is awesome. I'm going to say that straight away. It's just very, very fresh, this. You can get that right away. This must be one of the freshest New Englands that I've had on the channel for a wee while, actually. Apart from some of the Hong Kong Beer Co stuff, actually. But I think we're getting this one just in prime condition, in fact. For me, a New England IPA, if you leave it in the can till about the sort of 5-6 week mark, that's when it really gets into its absolute prime, rather than drinking it very fresh when you've still got a little bit of the kind of green hot burn in it, if you like. But yeah, this smells lovely. Big, very, very juicy, oaty leaning New England IPA, this one. So as I've said on the channel many a time, there are sort of 6 elements to think about when it comes to the malty and yeasty side of your New England IPA. You've got the farmhousey yeasty character and the rye leaning grainy side of things. Those are a bit more common in the New England brewed New England IPAs because the style started as a farmhouse IPA, but as the styles moved elsewhere and evolved and developed, the focus is more on barley malt bread, wheaty bitiness, oaty creaminess, and also the sweeter side of things. But for me, this beer really is leaning toward that oaty end of the New England spectrum. It's very, very smooth, very, very creamy. You've got a lovely kind of bright green component to this one, and you've also got just a lovely big juicy fruity note out of it. So yeah, I think the way this goes together is really, really nice. Oh yeah, it's great. So let's just break down this aroma then and describe it for you a wee bit more in depth. So the backbone of this beer, you've got a little bit of like fresh white bready bread crust in there. There's little hints of wood, little bits of cracker, but of course the focus with this one is that big fluffy fresh white bready barley malt in there. I'm pretty sure it's American malt that's in this one, maybe a little bit of Australian as well. It doesn't smell like too, you know, you can tell the American malt is a little bit smoother, if you like, than European malt. European malt's got a bit more of a crispness to it. So yeah, this one for me, lovely fresh kind of white bready character, and this one's got a slight sweetness to it. You can smell a little bit of wheaty bitiness in the back of the nose, but there's a slightly more dense white bready character to the beer as well. But there's lots and lots of big oaty creamy notes coming out of this one. So yeah, the oaty sort of creamy character coming out of this beer, I think is really, really nice too. So yeah, you can smell that lovely, just big oaty creamy character. As I've often said, when it comes to the oatiness in a New England IPA, it can be a really decent indicator of how fresh your beer is. Essentially, the fresher your New England IPA is, the creamier the oats will smell and taste, whereas the older it is, the drier they'll smell and taste. So yeah, the lovely oaty creaminess that comes out of this one is very, very apparent. But yeah, you have a lovely little bit of sweetness in there too, but not too much. There's just a little tiny hint of that Werther's Original butter candy butterscotch, but mostly your malty backbone in this beer is very kind of smooth and kind of yeah, it's very smooth and sort of creamy rather than anything else. A little bit of a biscuity note, I think, coming out of it too. So yeah, the way that it goes together in this one, I think, is really nice, and that gets a big thumbs up from me. I don't think we need to say too much more about the malty side of it. When it comes to the yeasty side of the beer, for me, it's actually quite similar. The yeasty character at the back of the nose is quite white bready. It's got a little bit of a crackery note to it, but mostly just a fluffy, fresh, slightly sweet white bread. I think that covers it quite nicely, in all honesty. So yeah, let's go on to the hoppy side of the beer then. So when it comes to the hopping or brewing a New England IPA, there's 3 different types of hoppings you can do. Early edition hopping, which takes place within the first hour or so of the wort boil. That gives you the vast majority of your bitterness and a deeper, danker green component. Late edition hopping in the last half hour or so of your wort boil. Little bit of bitterness, mainly flavour and aroma, very bright green component. Dry hopping, which takes place after the wort boil is complete. That's all about flavour and aroma, and again, it gives you a very, very bright green component. So yeah, when it comes to New England IPAs, they tend to rely on late addition and dry hopping, which is why they're softer and more juicy. West Coast IPAs use all 3, which is why they're deeper, danker, and more sort of oily in a sense. So yeah, for me, this one, the green component, very obviously, it's very, very smooth actually. It's almost smooth to the point where you think it's cryo oil, and I don't know actually, maybe the Bruce blend is a more kind of cryo oil blend. But yeah, the hoppy character with this one, the green component is lovely. You definitely get, there's a little tiny bit of earthiness in there. I do get a little bit of the kind of woodiness that you're supposed to get from crush as well, but mostly it's quite floral and quite grassy, I would say. And you know, I've always remembered Nelson Sauvin being quite floral and having a nice smooth grassiness too. And of course, Nelson Sauvin is a considerable part of crush, and Motueka is going to give you that big grassiness as well. So yeah, your green component's kind of what you'd expect, but it leans toward that freshly cut grass kind of thing. So yeah, I like the way that that goes together in this one. Yeah, so I think we can focus on the fruity side of things with this beer then. So for me, with this one, you absolutely get that little bit of kind of juicy lime from the Motueka component of the Bruce, and the more oily gooseberry note, as I was saying, is there too. But for me, I get a little bit of an almost, there's definitely like a kind of apricot-y mango mix in there. So yeah, there's an apricot-y sort of mango-y mix in this one. How would we say, yeah, mango apricot notes. I don't get too much in the way of orange out of this one. We're supposed to get a bit of orange from Crush, but yeah, for me, mostly mango, apricot, and then sort of a lemony and more of a limey and kind of gooseberry character. There's maybe a little bit of the kind of berryish note from Crush as well, but like a kind of, I don't know, strawberry or something like that. Like a little bit of an almost candied strawberry character coming out of this beer, in all honesty. So yeah, aroma-wise, this one's quite interesting, but it smells very, very inviting. So as I always say, just take a little bit of time and enjoy the aroma of your beer before you get stuck into it. But I think it is about time that we try this one and see what it's all about. So yeah, this one is the Yodokabe Tiger, a 7% New England Hazy IPA from Nomcraft Brewing in Aridagawa, Wakayama Prefecture in Kansai, Japan. Let's have a taste of this and see what it's all about. Slàinte, skål, cheers. Oh yeah, right. It's kind of pretty much as I expected it was going to be. As I say, I have had a little sip of this one before, but the can is always a little bit different from the tap. So yeah, this one for me, I think, again, it's a very oaty, creamy New England IPA. It's got a lovely kind of bright green component to it, as you always want. But there is a lot of just soft, fruity juiciness coming out of this one, and yeah, I really do like that in this case. Yeah, the way that this goes together is really nice. This gets a big thumbs up from me. This beer kind of highlights what yeah, this beer really does kind of highlight what Nomcraft are becoming very well renowned for. And the last time I was in Osaka, which I think was that January or so, February before this, these guys had a West Coast IPA, Blue Can, I forget the name of it, but I tried it on tap somewhere and it was awesome. It was really damn good. Never managed to get one to review, unfortunately. But yeah, the West Coast IPAs that these guys do are also very good. So a very solid IPA brewery at Nomcraft if you do want to try. But yeah, this one's giving you, it's one of these beers where the flavour that you get kind of agrees with what you would predict from the aroma. So let's just break down the flavour then and describe it for you more in depth. The backbone of this beer, you've got a lovely kind of fresh white bready bread crust in there, and that goes together really nicely. So fresh white bready bread crust backbone. As you move further forward from that, you've got a lovely kind of little bit of woody character in the base there, which comes out more into the aftertaste, and you've got a kind of smattering of Jacob's cream cracker just above that too. The next bit along, you've got more of a you've got a bit of a very slight wholemeal brown bready layer coming out of this one, which is nice. But of course, the majority of your malt base is that lovely, fresh, fluffy, white bready character that comes out of the beer. So yeah, that fluffy, fresh, white bready character's in there. And then that's the barley malt. Then on top of that, you've got the more dense, wheaty, white bready character coming out of the beer as well. So that more dense, wheaty, white bready note just sits on top there. As I've often said, sweeter flavours come out a little bit further forward on the palate, more dry and bitter flavours come out further back. So you can feel that in that wheaty white bready layer, it's a bit smoother further forward, and you've got more of a kind of bitey, yeah, you've got a little bit more of a sort of bitey, and a little bit of bitiness from the wheat further back on the palate. But the next layer up, of course, down the middle line of your palate, you've got that lovely kind of oaty, creamy sort of character coming out of the beer, so you can feel that lovely oaty creaminess there, and it spreads out toward the edges of the palate, and you get just a little touch of dryness there. In the dead centre of your tongue, you can feel a little circle there where there's a tiny little bit of like Werther's original butter candy butterscotch coming out of the beer. And again, I really do like how that goes together in this one. So yeah, the juicy fruity notes that come out of this beer as well just really moisten the whole thing up. But yeah, with that little touch of Werther's original butter candy butterscotch, and there's a wee bit of McVitie's digestive biscuit in there, but I would point out it's very, very minimal. The overall kind of feel of the malt base in this beer is leaning toward that kind of oaty creaminess for sure. I think that covers the middle third of your palate then. So let's go to the back third of your palate with the beer. And as I've often said, the back third of your palate is going to give you very similar flavours to the middle third of your palate, but just at different intensities. So yeah, the border region between middle and back third of your palate, you get that nice little bit of kind of bready build up in there. The brown breads in the base, the barley malt white breads in the middle, then the more dense wheaty characters on top. But yeah, the base of that back third of your palate, you can feel the white bready bread crust that's in there, the crackery layer. You've got the brown bready layer, which feels a little bit lighter, taller and more airy. The barley malt white bready layer, which above that again feels a little bit lighter, tall and more airy. Then you've got the kind of wheaty character sitting on top of that, which is a little bit more kind of bitey, if we can call it that. But above everything else, you start to get the yeasty side of the beer coming out. So yeah, let's look at that yeasty side of things. So yeah, for me, the yeasty side of this beer is kind of interesting. It's at its core, it feels like it's got a slightly sweet brown bready kind of character. Then it's surrounded by a more fluffy white bready note, and then yeah, there's a little bit of a more kind of it's a little bit of a kind of bread crusty, almost crackery note coming out of this one, which I think is very, very nice. So yeah, the way that all goes together, I think, is pretty nice in this beer. So yeah, I think the yeast gives you a little bit of dryness into the aftertaste. There's also a little bit of that kind of Skittlesy type flavour that some of these New England IPA yeast can also give you, and that comes out mainly in that border region between middle and back third of your palate. The other thing that you can say is the back third of your palate, the flavour is definitely taller. Then as you move further forward into the middle third of your tongue, it just kind of compresses down and it squashes together that little bit more. But yeah, the way that goes together, I think, is really quite nice, in fact. So let's focus on the hoppy side of the beer then. I think we said everything we need to about the malty and yeasty side of it. So back corners of the palate, you've got a nice little bit of earthiness in there. As you move further forward, you can feel a little bit of the woodiness that we were supposed to get from the crush. That's definitely in there. I do get a wee touch of like piney resin, which I think is going to be the Nelson Sauvin. You can feel that further back. Then as you move further forward, you get a little bit more kind of floral aromaticity, and round the front curve of your tongue, there's that little bit of lighter, more zesty grassiness. I think that's going to be the Motueka component of the Bruce that's giving you that as well. So the green component's got a good variety to it, but yeah, we should focus on the fruity side of the beer when it comes to the hops. So if we go to the front third of your palate then, the border region between front and middle third of your palate, again, a little bit of bready build up in there, brown bread in the base, the barley malt white bread in the middle, the wheat on top. Then on the base of that front third of your palate, you've got all the layers: white bready bread crust, cracker, brown bread, white bread, the more wheaty side of things, and a little bit of the smoother side of the oat. Then above that, you get that nice oily bubble where the juicy fruity esters roll the way out of the beer. So let's focus on that fruity side of things then. And yeah, the fruity side of this beer is really damn nice. Yeah, so for me, the fruity side of this beer, it is very, very juicy. When you first take it in, if you go to the back of that front third of your palate. I actually get a little bit of a sharper peach out of this one, and I think that's going to be the Rakal component of the Bruce that's doing that. So there's a little bit sharper peach on top, but then there's big juicy kind of mangoes underneath. And as you move further forward toward the middle of that kind of front third of to the middle of that front third of your palate, yeah, there's a little bit of a kind of apricot-y and pineapple-y character there as well. And it's interesting because when you go into the front half of the front third of your tongue, for me, yeah, you get that, the Nelson Sauvin component of the Bruce, you get that white, green, grapey gooseberry note that you expect of the hop, but then, yeah, as you reach the kind of front tip of your tongue, it's more about the lime and that kind of big, kind of zesty, limey character that comes out of this one. So, yeah, the way that all of that pieces together, I think, is really quite nice. I don't get much in the way of orange. It did say that, you know, you were supposed to get a little bit of orange from Crush, but I'm not getting much of that, to be honest. Maybe a little bit of the citrusy, zesty character could be interpreted as orange. And there's a wee bit, as I say, there's a little bit of that kind of almost candied strawberry note coming out of this one. It does remind me a little bit of Strata, actually, some of the stuff we're getting in this beer, especially that, yeah, into the aftertaste you're getting more of a kind of candied strawberry note, actually. So if I was tasting this blind, I might have guessed Strata in this one, to be honest. But in any case, yeah, the way that this goes together, I think, is really very nice. Lovely juicy fruitiness in that, and generally speaking, it's a lovely New England IPA, and it's quite impressive as well for it being only 7%. So yeah, I think we can leave it at that for the flavour of this one. A very oaty, creamy and smooth and quite juicy New England IPA. So yeah, on that note, let's round off the review with a wee look at the mouthfeel. So for me, this one, I would say it's kind of top end of mid-bodied. The carbonation is very smooth. Like I said, it's a really quite creamy New England IPA, this one. In terms of the IBU count of the beer, it's in terms of the IBU count of the beer, I would say that it's probably, I think it's about a standard 30-ish IBUs. You can feel a little bit of bitterness into the aftertaste there, but it's mostly a kind of floral brightness, if we can call it that. So your malt base is a bit drier underneath, smooth in the middle, kind of creamy on top, and then yeah, you've got this lovely, juicy, fruity character to this one. A bit tropical in the beginning, but I think the citrusy side of it comes out a little bit more into the aftertaste. But all in all, a really nice and very interesting New England double IPA. This one, it's got a bit of a different vibe to it in comparison to some of the other ones I've reviewed in recent times. But yeah, I'm really impressed with this one, and yeah, I think that I've not had too many New Englands from this brewery, but yeah, when it comes to the kind of cleaner styles of beer, if we can call it that, the West Coast IPAs, for me that's where Nomcraft really shines. So a very good New England IPA, but I think the West Coast IPAs from Nomcraft just stand out that little bit more. To me, if you like, but that could be personal preference. But yeah, really impressed with this one. It is absolutely worth trying if you're a hazy fan, and if you find yourself in the Osaka area, go and check out their Juso tap room. But yeah, let's leave it at that for this one. This was the Yodokabe Tiger. I was going to mess that up there. This one was the Yodokabe Tiger, a 7% New England hazy, whatever you want to call it, IPA from wonderful Nomcraft Brewing in Aridagawa, Wakayama Prefecture in the Kansai region of Japan. Once again, thank you for watching my beer reviews. Until the next time, please like, subscribe, share, all the usual YouTube stuff. Let me know your own thoughts on this beer in the comments section below. Let me know what your favourite beers are from Nomcraft Brewing as well, and we will return to these guys in a couple of videos time, because I've got another 3 cans of theirs to work my way through, all different styles, so it should let us get a better feel for this brewery. But until the next time, check out my social media, check out Nomcraft Brewing's social media, and I'll see you guys in another review very shortly. Ciao just now.